AEW Dynamite 27th of March review. Let's get into it. So the night started out with Will Ospreay and Katsuri Shibata having an excellent match, with Shibata having most of the control in the match and Will Ospreay being forced to fight back. I did think there were a few too many strike exchanges, when they both do a bunch of forearms or a bunch of chops. I did think there was a few too many of those. But I will just say one thing. Will Ospreay knows how to build a match. That man knows how to perfectly build a match where it climaxes at the perfect point and just gets the crowd all excited. So that's 1-1 each between Ospreay and Shibata throughout their careers. Then we had a Bryan Danielson video package, which basically just highlighted who Bryan Danielson is, what type of wrestler he is, and the things he's had to overcome, like being forced to retire. We then had a backstage interview between Renee Young and the EVPs, in other words, the Young Bucks, where Renee mentions the Young Bucks losing last time out to Private Party in a big upset a couple of years ago now, and this obviously upset the EVPs, and they basically just insulted Renee Young. But they also said that they had goals that they set out when they returned to AEW, and that was retire Sting, restructure the Elite, and now to win the tag team titles, which let's see if they do that. We then had the match between the EVPs and Private Party, and a decent match. I wouldn't nowhere near their first match, because their first match was a really good match, but this match, I don't know, the EVPs with their new gimmick, it's very different to the way they used to wrestle. And I know it's kind of weird because a lot of people didn't like the way they used to wrestle, and at times I was included in that. So I didn't always like their style, but something feels missing with them now, if you know what I mean. It feels like they're not going all out like they used to go. And I suppose that's with their gimmick, so it kind of does make sense, so props to them for that. But yeah, pretty average match. The finish was awkward as hell. They did the EVP kick, or whatever the EVP, whatever they call it now, the former BTE. And they did it from behind, but it was like kind of delayed. One of them was delayed. And even the pin, they weren't sure who was the legal man, which is typical in a Young Bucks match. But yeah, kind of an awkward finish. Nonetheless, the EVPs get the win and advance to the next round. Then we see Mercedes Mone arrive as she gets out of a fancy car. We then have a little promo package for Takeshita, but it was kind of more of a Don Callis promo package, if I'm being honest. And his issue with Swerve, which I don't kind of get either. Like, he says he doesn't understand, or he doesn't like Swerve's house when the Don Callis... It really doesn't make sense on why they... What Don Callis was... He was trying to make a story for a match that doesn't have a story. Doesn't have a story because it's a number one contenders match. That is the story. Don't try and make another story out of nothing. You know what I'm trying to say here. Then we had Cris Jericho offering his advice to Hook. So last week he said you'd have an offer for Hook, and this was his offer. You can ask me advice. It doesn't make sense. I assume Cris is going to somehow become like a managerial type role for Hook. But I didn't understand. What do you mean you're now going to offer him advice? It just seemed really silly, and it seemed like it didn't... What was the point of it? You know what I'm trying to say? What was the point of it? Then we had a fatal four-way number one contenders match for the TBS Championship between Willow, Kris Statlander, Skye Blue, and Anna Jay. And this was a pretty decent match. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed it. It was really good. All four women are great wrestlers, so I didn't expect anything less. Willow came out with the win after she pinned Anna Jay with a powerbomb. And Mercedes Mone was on commentary, and my gosh, her commentary is awful. Don't put her on commentary again. Please do not put her on commentary again. She had nothing to offer. She was talking in a very slow tone that just didn't fit commentary. Don't put her there again, please, Tony. After the match, then Julia Hart attacked Willow, seeing as she's the new number one contender. But Kris Statlander got involved, and there was a little bit of a stare down between Mercedes and Willow. It's all a little bit confusing, but still, it was okay nonetheless. And then we move on to a backstage interview with Dustin Rhodes and Renee Good. I think that's her name now. I always get confused. Is it Renee Moxley? Is it Renee Good? Is it Renee Young? Anyway, we move on to that, where basically the Butcher ends up interrupting Dustin Rhodes, and they end up settling for a match at Rampage. We then had a Toni Storm segment. I don't know what you call this. She was at the back with someone. I didn't pay that much attention because I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. It lasted about 35 seconds, 40 seconds, and she said nothing at all. She just said her usual catchphrase, chin up, tits out, watch the shoe, and that was it. I have no idea what was the point of this. Supposed just to get on the show for 20 seconds, but absolutely no point in it. I would have been fine. If I was just watching for the sake of not doing a review, I wouldn't even noticed that segment. It was just a waste of time. Then we had the best friends of Trent Bareta and Orange Cassidy versus the United, or the Undisputed Kingdom, sorry, I get confused. And yeah, pretty standard match, nothing spectacular, nothing bad, Nothing really to say about the match other than the best friends won, which was pretty predictable because the Undisputed Kingdom are already the ROH champions, and this is obviously a qualifying, or not qualifying, but a round match for the tournament that is going on to crown new tag champions. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that Orange Cassidy's team was going to win because that guy doesn't lose unless, he's wrestled 400 days in a row and then they give him a reason to lose. But yeah, Orange Cassidy and Trent Bareta come out on top. Then we have a Adam Copeland video package after his win last week on Dynamite, and it's just basically Adam Copeland saying that it's time for him to move on now. He's ended his story after 40 years with Christian Cage, and it's time to move on, and that's exactly what he's going to do. As Collision, he's going to reopen the Adam Copeland Open Challenge, so basically anyone can challenge him for the TNT title. Interesting stuff. And then in our main event, we had Swerve Strickland and Konosuke Takeshita in a number one contendership match for Samoa Joe's AEW World Championship, and this was an absolute banger, just like the opening match. They had a good formula, a good opening match, good closing match, happy days. But this match was a banger. Anything with Takeshita and Swerve is always going to be an absolute banger. Both good wrestlers, both know what they're doing in the ring, both know how to conduct a good main event match, and that's exactly what they did with Swerve coming out on top with a Swerve Stomp. And there you have it. For Dynasty, we have Swerve Strickland for Samoa Joe. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Swerve Strickland can beat Samoa Joe at Dynasty? And do you think he will beat Samoa Joe at Dynasty? I personally don't think it's going to happen now. I do think Hangman Adam Page is going to come in and make an interference of some sort and cost Swerve his championship. I honestly think that's what's going to happen. Anyways, guys, Dynamite was a good show. There was some parts that didn't make sense, some parts that did make sense. As always with any wrestling show, to be honest, there was some banger matches in the opening and closing. The Women's Fatal 4-Way was good. I don't know, it just felt like they tried to shove a lot of people onto the show, as in like the Tony Storm segment. I didn't quite understand the purpose of it, but a great show nonetheless. I didn't see too many issues with. There wasn't a match that really got me upset or I didn't enjoy. There wasn't a segment that I didn't enjoy or was upset by, except for the Mercedes Mone commentary. That was horrendous, but everything else was pretty solid nonetheless. Good stuff heading into Dynasty on the 21st of April. So with that being said, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Stay tuned. Peace.